Auto rotation is on.
On. Just tilt your phone a little bit and it will take the landscape mode, the presentation. Yes, yes, perfect, sir. Perfect.
Okay, so any break is required to the participants because it is very exhaustive and you people are listening from 5 p.m. So any break is required or can I start?
Participants, do you require a break? Sir is asking whether you require a break or not. I think they are okay with.
Okay.
Please continue, sir. Okay.
Okay, then I am going to start.
Right.
And good evening to all of you. Myself, Dr. Narendra Tiwari, Assistant Professor in Biostatistics Department of Community Medicine. And I will be talking to you regarding the basics of biostatistics. This is the thing which is being allotted to me to talk on this topic. And you people have now read most of the things during these last 2 days. You people have now framed your research question. You have learned about study design. You have learned about only lifting to ethics. You people have learned about review of literature. Though when you are writing a synopsis, most of the part you have learned. Also today I will discuss with you regarding a special part that is in the methodology that is related to statistical analysis part, where you people have to focus and write down that what is the statistical analysis plan for you in your synopsis, how you are going to do your statistical work. Again I am saying statistical work because when I will explain you what is statistics, then I will tell you that what is the work you are going to do. Okay, so not taking too much of the time. Sorry. Actually, this landscape mode will not be okay. This will be okay only. I will make it zoom, large it. I will enlarge it whenever it is required. So before coming to this, some classical example, it is a statement made by Lord Kelvin that when you can measure what you are speaking about and express it in numbers, you know something about it. But when you cannot measure, when you cannot express it in numbers, your knowledge is insufficient and unsatisfactory kind. So this was a statement which was made by Lord Kelvin, and this statement has a lot of meaning. Suppose in the today era, when I ask with you that if a patient is having a symptom of fever, then people will ask you that how much fever it is, what is the magnitude of that fever, what is the number you are having. Then you say that, oh, I am having 100 degree Fahrenheit fever. Okay, so the thing is that now you are quantifying it into the number, and when you quantify it in number, you come to a conclusion that you have fever or not. This is what he had expressed. Now, these are some classical studies where biostatistics has been used, and I'm not going in the depth of that because you people are too much exhausted, and now I'm not going to read too many studies which has happened. This is Doll and Hill conducted a study to find out an association between smoking and lung cancer. A very well-known cohort study that is done by Framingham in 1948 to find out that serum cholesterol, blood pressure, weight, smoking, etc. may be a risk factor for CSD, and so on. So in all this study, a very important thing that is attached is statistics, because all of them, when conducted their study, they have analyzed their data and they have come to a conclusion. or they have come to a interpretation. When it is analytical, they have made some inference. Why I'm using this word? So that in the future in slides you will get aware of these words. Okay, now come to statistics. What does statistics mean? Statistics means actually to obtain a data. Okay, you have made your questionnaire for your study. Now what will you do? The step is that now you will collect the data or you obtain the data from the participants. Okay, second thing what will you do is to analyze the data, right? And third thing is that you will present it. So analyzing, presenting and collecting, when all these combine, it will make a definition of a statistics that is called a science which deals with the collection, data collection, their compilation, tabulation and analysis to perform a meaningful and valid interpretation. A word that is used is, in the last is very important, that is meaningful and valid. Means when you are measuring temperature and you are getting it in kilometer or meter, or you are getting something invalid, then you have done a wrong statistics. This means either there is a problem in your methodology, maybe in your study design, maybe your process of data collection tool. So there would have some problem. So you cannot blame that this analysis is wrong. You have to rethink that whether my object was okay, whether the process of data collection what I had done, it was right or wrong. So you have to think in that direction. So it is the science where we collect the data, we compile it, we tabulate it and analyze it to comes to a meaningful and valid interpretation of the data. Now this is what I had discussed with you. So this is whole about the process of statistics, where you collect the data, you compile the data, tabulate the data, you analyze it, and you reach to a valid conclusion or a valid inference. Okay, this word inference is used when we are talking about analytical study design. You people have heard, you people have learned in the previous session what is the difference between descriptive and analytical study design. I'm not going to touch more about it, but the thing is that when the words come analytical, means you are in a situation to find out cause effect relationship, then we talk about an inferential statistics. Because when because you are going to make some inference about a big population from where you had taken the data. Okay, right? So this is about biostatistics. It is coming under in when application of statistics is applied in the field of biology or public health or medicine, then it is known as biostatistics. Now comes to the word data. What is a data? Everybody has used this word data, but what is this data? Data means a collective recording of all the observation, collective recording of all the observation on one or more variable, either numerical or otherwise, is a data. So the sentence is very explanatory. It is explaining all the things that when you are collecting information through the help of a questionnaire, all those things what you have collected, either age of the person, gender of the person, weight of the person, something hemoglobin and so on, various biochemical parameters and all that, this is all comes under the data. And there is a word used, variable, one or more variable. So what is a variable? Any characteristics which varies from person to person is known as a variable. Like my age is 34. or 35. Your age is 28, something like that. So age is a variable. Okay. So I think that this has been discussed in the data collection tool, but I am again focusing on this because when you are not clear with your data, you would not be able to think in the direction that what to analyze. People are coming to me and they are having a data of something qualitative response and they are saying that, sir, please find out the correlation coefficient. It is very typical to answer this type of a question. When a person coming to me and asking that, find out the Pearson correlation coefficient for that. So whenever whenever you are dealing with statistics, you have to be very clear in your data that what is a data. Okay. Now comes to a data types. What are the types of data you are having? Whenever you are collecting your data, you are only going to get a qualitative and a quantitative data. So what is a quantitative? As the name indicates, quanti means I can quantify it in some numbers, right? Like age of a person, height of a person, pulse rate, BP, hemoglobin level, CBC, and many things like that. Okay. So when we are talking about a quantity or a variable which can be quantified it into numbers, that is known as quantitative. But when I'm talking about attributes or characteristics, something like that, like what is your blood group? What is your disease status? What is the category of a disease? You are having mild, moderate, severe. What is the gender of a person? What is the socioeconomic status? You belongs to which socioeconomic status? Upper, middle, lower. These cannot be quantified into numbers. But the thing is that when you collected this qualitative data, we can give coding to them. I think that you people are thinking in your mind, because the thing is that when statistics class is there is an interactive session, but it is not possible in this situation. So but I'm trying my best so that you can have an interactive session with me, that when you are collecting a qualitative data, people are saying, sir, I have quantified it, I have given some code. That is not a quantification. You have converted that qualitative response into quantitative for your analysis. Okay, right? Now comes to the quantitative types. What are the types of quantitative data? Quantitative types are discrete and continuous. What is a discrete? Discrete means any quantity which takes a whole number. Suppose number of students attending this session, it cannot be in fraction. Maybe number of episodes of illness in an individual for any disease during the last 5 days or 5 years. This cannot be in a fraction. Okay. Now comes to a continuous response, like weight, height, age, like this. These are all continuous data, because a very important thing that is containing it is it can take decimal values. It is written very clearly. Continuous data takes decimal values, right? But discrete data doesn't take decimal values. Now comes to qualitative response. I have already discussed with you that measuring a characteristics for which no natural numerical scale is available, like blood group of a person, marital status, gender, these are all qualitative response. Okay. Now this qualitative data is also categorized into nominal data, ordinal data. I think somebody had discussed about the scale of measurement and all that. I don't know, you people know it, but the thing is that I just want to make you understand this thing, because whenever you are talking to a person who is having a knowledge of statistics and you are coming with the data in a haphazard way, people are coming to me, people are sending the data, and then data is very you cannot even imagine that how to analyze this data. So whenever you are sending a data, you have to fill the data in a very proper way what you have collected. Now comes to the qualitative response, that is nominal type. Nominal indicates name of a person, name like sex, gender, ethnicity, smoking status. It does not contain any order. Second one is ordinal data, means this contains some order. When you talk about the severity of a disease, you will say you are having mild, you are having moderate, you are severe. When you talk about stages of cancer, you will say that you are in advanced stage, you are in moderate, you are mild. So these are all types of qualitative or categorical. Binary, one more thing is there. Binary means two outcomes, only two outcomes. Either the person is smoker, non-smoker, either you are present or absent, either you have passed the exam, either you have failed the exam. Okay, so some of the student status of students. Okay, so this is all about binary data. Now comes to next one. Now comes to data entry. I have discussed with you the types of data. Now you are in a position of writing your synopsis. After that, you will collect your data. And when you collect your data, ultimately you have to enter it. So when you are entering your data, you have to be very cautious, right? So data entry is a very important process before the data analysis, because when your data is not managed properly, then it becomes a very hectic for a person who is analyzing the data. Okay, so you are in the first year, so I am expecting from you people that you people enter the data in a very proper way. I am seeing since last 2.5 years I am in Arjikar, people are coming and they are entering a data in a very casual manner, and I put my hand on my head that how much time it will take to manage it. After that, analysis will be done. Analysis is not a big hectic. Don't jump to the analysis. First, learn the process of research, that how you have to enter the data. Okay, so this is a MS Excel sheet. When you open Microsoft, there is Microsoft Office, there is Microsoft Excel. So this is a wide sheet. Okay, it contains a large number of data set. You don't have to worry. Some people are writing some data in sheet 1, some people are writing for cases, writing in sheet 1, case control you are writing in sheet 2. This is not a way. When you are having cases and control, right at the top of A here, status of patient number, you just know what is case and what is control. So 2 to 15, suppose 20 patients are cases, you write down case. After that, you write down control and fill all the entities of that person, right? So this is a data. Now comes to the next slide, which is where the data has been entered. Very nicely the data has been entered here. You look, this is the patient serial number. Okay, serial number of a patient. I have got this data from a person who is working here in anesthesia department. So he has sent me data very perfectly. He has entered. I like the way. Now he has made into two categories: type, ACB type, and others. He has made. Now he had given the code also, but no need to give code. You are knowing that code, that is important. Now comes to age of a person. He has written very clearly 63. People are writing 63 YEARS, somewhere 70 YRS, somewhere 72 YE. This is not a proper way to enter the data. You have to not to be very casual in filling the data set in MS Excel sheet. Whatever the things you are taking or capturing from your questionnaire, write it is. But the thing is that you have to be very specific in writing it in Excel. So first column, First row is discussing about the variable, means the title of your data set, right? So this is serial number, means how many patients he has taken in the study. Second one is type. What is the type of data? Type, which category he belong, ACB category or other. Like age, what is the age of a person? If you are having decimal values in month, you write down 63.5, 70.2, something like that. Convert it into years or in months, but don't make in different identity. Okay. Sex, you write down male, female, transgender, somewhere you write down. Height in centimeter. You know, a very beautiful thing he has written, height underscore centimeter. No need to write here underscore, but when you are talking about us numeric and string character. What is a numeric character? Means which contains numbers, right? And string characters means which contains alpha, which contains this uh, alphabets, right? So like this, he has written VAS scale he has taken at 0 time. So he has mentioned VAS underscore 0. No need to write VAS underscore 0 time, VAS underscore 1 month, 1 minute or 3 minutes, something like that. No need to write more. You are knowing everything and you are having all the records of your data. So don't write too much, because you are knowing that what is the variable. You are having a lot of questionnaire. If there is any confusion, you can write. But the best thing is that when you are filling your data, there should not be any mixing. Okay, like people are mixing string and variable. So what is the most important point you must know when you are entering a data, that is known as process of data cleaning. Frame the title or heading as short as for your understanding. Like the person he has done. Age of the patient can be written as age underscore years. No need to write age of the patient, something like that. Okay. Do not use string and numeric character. I have already told you, don't mix. If you are writing a follow-up of 1 month, write down follow-up underscore 1. Nothing more than that. Okay. Enter the data as it is, you have entered in your questionnaire. Don't write by your own self. Suppose you have written male, female, transgender for sex of a patient. People are writing M, somewhere writing M, somewhere writing MALE, somewhere writing small MALE, somewhere writing capital MA small ALE. This is not the way, because when you enter all these things, when this all Excel sheet when entered in some statistical software, it takes different it will code it into different it will take different code, because when male is written M, it will take M1 code, male 2 code, small MALE 3 code. So it will be a typical for a person to analyze. And the most important thing what you people know, that how to use a filter symbol. That is a very important thing, because when you are understanding how to use this filter in your Excel sheet, most of the problems are rectified by yourself only. No need to come to me that, sir, this is my master sheet, master chart. Can you just have a look whether I am doing it wrong or not? So I am coming with how to use a filter in MS Excel. Look, here it is a symbol, it is made of funnel, it is highlighted, filter. When you click on here, automatically all the filter is applied at the title or heading, right? Now what will you do after that? Now suppose where I have to select that how many males and females are in my study. Okay, so you just click here at this point, blue point, where sex is written at the top. You just click here, male. You just click here. There is option select all. When you do not select any of these identity, it will both all the select all is highlighted, tick. But when you are interested in finding out how many males are there in your data, how many females are there, you just click on select. Automatically whole select is disabled, and after that you just click on female. Now you will get at the bottom that how many females are there. You look, 31 out of 74 record. This means this 31 out of 74 record at the bottom, it is writing. This means that you are having 34 females. So you can do all these things. This is all a type of descriptive analysis. You can perform in Excel. MS Excel is a very wonderful software and it can do all the analysis rather than some higher analysis. Now, not taking much of your time, what is the task given to me is to talk you about that in your synopsis, what is the software you are going to use. So now first thing is clear, you write down in your statistical analysis plan or statistical analysis part that all the data collected from the participants will be entered in MS Excel sheet for the analysis, right? I'm not talking about analysis because this is a thing which you are going to do after first year or in the second year. Okay, so analysis will be done by a separate software or you can do it with Excel also. If you are having a descriptive study, all the things easily can be done. But when you are having a study that is related to analytical type or some higher survival analysis, and many other studies are there where regression analysis and very big multinomial and all that things are used, multiple regression analysis or regression analysis is used, then you have to switch to some special statistical software packages like you have heard about SPSS. Stata is one more. Okay, there are many more. People are using R also, which is based on programming. So these are all a part of statistical analysis. I am not going to cover this part. Okay, second thing is that you, whatever the software you are using, you will get the same result. So no need to worry that sir, I am using R, I am using SPSS, my result will change. Result will not change. Result will be same. But there are some beauty in R, some beauty in Stata, because why the software are coming to the market? Because of some beauty. So now comes to numerical summarization of data. So when you are having, you people are already aware that of descriptive study and analytical study. People have already discussed with you in the previous classes that when you are talking about descriptive study, you have to explore the study in the form of number and percentages like this, or you have to make some numerical summarization. Okay, you have to summarize it in the form of what is the best measure of central tendency and what is the best measure of dispersion. Okay, so I will take two parts. There is little bit of mathematics involved in that, but I will not discuss much more mathematics with you people because software are available, but you people know that which is the best measure of central tendency and which is the best measure of central tendency and which is the best measure of dispersion that suits for your data. Because you have to write, what people are doing, people are analyzing the data, they are giving everything, mean, median, standard deviation, interquartile range, everything to the thesis. But when you send all these things to a peer review journal or a peer paper, they will reject the paper and say that what is the best measure, man? Write down that. Don't think that I am too much intelligent about statistics, that you have given me all the measure. You have to only give a peculiar measure which is the best source for your data. Now comes to measure of numerical summarization of descriptive statistics. In that we will discuss about measure of central tendency. As the name indicates, central tendency means central value. What is the central value? What is the mid value? Or what is the average value? Okay, so there are three measures of central tendency. You people know it, you people have read in your UG class also: mean, median, mode. But where to use These three measure, that is the important task, because you people have to write in your synopsis depending on your data set, right? So what so any set of data shows a tendency towards a central value. In other words, average is an attempt to find out single figure to describe whole of the figure. This means you are having suppose you are having 60 patient age, and a person wants to find out what is the average age of patients in your study, right? So what is the average, or what is the central value, or what is the mid value? People are interested in find what is the most commonly occurring value. These are the three things which will be answered by measures of central tendency. So the purpose of central tendency is to summarize and describe the data meaningfully and adequate, to reduce the mass of numbers into a single index, to compare it with similar data, or to find out the pattern of the data also. What is this pattern or shape? I have not discussed here. I am not discussing here with you about the distribution, but a little bit knowledge is required here, because when you are not having a knowledge about the pattern or the shape of that data it is following, then it will very typical for you to understand the thing that I have to use a mean, I have to use a median, or I have to give mode for this data set, right? So pattern is very much important. The thing is that now how to make this pattern. So when a data has come to you, you can make a histogram curve for it. It is a part of analysis, and by that you can see that your data is following a pattern of normal or not. You just remind your UG classes where a normal, a bell-shaped curve has been made. And in that, it was, you people have learned by heart that it is a symmetric curve, mean, median, mode is almost equal, coincides, okay, and all that you people have read. So this is the same thing where you are going to use when you are collecting your data. When you are analyzing it, you have to choose that what is the best measure of central tendency you have to give in your data set, right? So this is all about there. So there are various measures of central tendency: mean, median, mode, geometric mean, harmonic mean. But I'm not going to touch here geometric and harmonic mean. You people know about mean, median, and mode. Okay, so mean is the collection of all the observation divided by total number of observation. So mean is x bar. It is denoted by x bar. X bar is equal to x1, x2, and so on up to xn divided by n. So sum sign in mathematics, it is used by summation I is equal to 1 to n divided by n, where x1 is the first observation, means first person weight, second person weight, third person weight is x3, and so on up to last person, that is n. Is, suppose there are 60 patients in your study, so small n is 60, and you divide it total n by capital total number of observation divided by n. This will give the arithmetic mean. You people have done it. Now there comes a situation where you are having this type of situation. Okay, your systolic blood pressure range is given and number of frequencies are given. So this is called class interval data. Okay, people are having class interval they have made for systolic BP. Okay, and in that frequency, number of persons who were in that particular category were there, and you have to, and there will a question will be there, that can you find out the mean systolic BP for this individual 68 individual. So this is answered. You people have done in your class 10 that you just take an average of 90 and 100 divided by 2, that will give the midpoint, that is 95. 100 plus 110 divided by 2, that is 105. It is the midpoint. You multiply it by fi frequency and divide it by total number of observation, that is 68. So mean is coming here 135.6, that is 9220 divided by 9220 is the sum of fi and xi 9220. Another method is there, but I am not going in the depth of this. You can take a mid value, assume a mean. After that, you take the difference and you are going to get the same result. So no need to discuss about this. Now comes to discuss about median. So median is, so mean discusses about the average value, average observation. Okay, median discuss about the position. So median is that point which divides the whole data set into two equal points. So median is the midpoint. Okay, so median is the midpoint. It is the midpoint of all the observation. Suppose take this example. The gestational age of females, 10 females is taken, right? It is 37, 30, 34, 34, 41, 46, 39, and all that, 42, something like that it is given. Okay, now a person is interested in finding out the median. So median is the mid value. So there are, so here you, if you are interested in finding out the median, you have to look that how many observation are there. It is a manual calculation, but softwares are there, so you can calculate it from software also, but still you have the idea that how to calculate the median. So when you are having 10 females, then fifth value is the median value, which divides the whole data set into two equal parts. First, the data is arranged into either increasing sequence or decreasing sequence, and after that the mid value is n plus 1 by 2. If n is odd, if n is odd, it is n plus 1 by 2. Okay, now comes to if n is even. When n is even, it is calculated by n by 2 plus n by 2 plus 1 and divided by 2. This means the, if n is even, this means 10 by 2, sorry, it is here it is written wrong. There are 11 patients, I think. 3, 6, 3, 9. Oh, it is 9. 3, 3, 6, 3, 9. Sorry, it is written wrong. 10 females. It is taken for 9 females. So n is odd. That's why the fifth is the positional average, or it divides the whole data set into two equal parts. So 35 is the gestational weeks, or 35 weeks is the average or median week of, for a lady, for a pregnant female to give the delivery. Okay, to happen the delivery. Now comes to the average duration of hospital of a person is stay in a hospital. So if n is even, then you take n by 2, that is, suppose n is even, n is number of observation. So 10 by 2 plus 10 by 2 plus 1, that is fifth plus sixth term divided by 2. So here if there are 10 observation, length of stay in the hospital is given. So you do it by taking the fifth and sixth observation and divide it by 2. This is a mathematical calculation. I am not taking too much time because there are softwares, you can do all this. Now this comes to the mode. Mode is the most frequently observing value. This means number of episodes of malaria during 5 months. When I start from June, suppose May, June, July, August, and September. Number of episodes of dengue. What is the most reoccurring value? That is called the mode. Mode is much affected by extreme values, and it is the it is one of the three measure of central tendency. But among all these three, mean is an ideal measure of central tendency. Now, when to give mean, when to give median, when to give mode, this is a question. It is written in 3 lines, but you have to check normality for your data set. So in your synopsis, you have to write down that the data was checked for the normality. Okay, so some tests are available, that is known as Kolmogorov-Smirnov test, KS test, you people have seen somewhere, or you can follow, make a histogram, or you can make a plot of normal distribution curve, bell-shaped curve, and by that curve you will say that your data is following a pattern of normal or not. So now the question comes here. When your data is following normal distribution, then you have to give mean, because there is a less variability in the data set. Variability means there is a less change from one value to other value. Okay, variation is very less. The spread from one data or spread from mean is very less. Okay, so when I will discuss about measures of dispersion, this variability will be more clear to you. So when your data is following a pattern of normal, then in this case, you will say that you have to give mean. But when your data is not following normal distribution, then you have to think for median. Or when you are talking about episodes of illness or number of person, that is in the form of whole number, that 2 episodes, 3 episodes, 5 episodes, which is the most reoccurring value, then you can give mode as a best measure of central tendency. So write down somewhere that when your data is following normal distribution, if people are first year, I am not talking about analysis of the data. So the thing is that you people know that when data is following a normal distribution curve, then you have to give mean. When it is not following a normal distribution, means there is a large variability in the data set, there is a large gap in the data set. When I talk about duration of a person for suppose in any cancer patient, when the survival duration, or in HIV patient, it may vary. Some patients may die early within 1-2 months. Some patients may die within 6 years or 5 years. So survival days or years survival difference is very large. So there is a large variability in this type of data set. So in this case, median is best measure of central tendency. So in this case, when data is not following normal, it will be a skewed type. Skewed means maybe a positively, it will be bended towards right skewed, known as positively skewed, or it is bended towards negatively skewed. When we will talk about analysis of data set, we will discuss about more. Oh, this is now comes to measure of dispersion. So measure of dispersion talks about variability or variation that is happening in the data what is you have collected, or it helps to explain the variation in the data may be due to some factors. Okay, so when there is a large variability in the data set, you will not get a bell-shaped curve and there will be a skewed data, and in that case, you have to choose median. Now, what is the need of studying measures of dispersion? When you have collected the mean for the data, what is the motto, or what is the utility of studying these measures of dispersion? Is it a wastage? No. The thing is that when you are collecting a data, I am having 3 observations. Listen very properly. I am giving 3 observations, 5, 5, 5. This is a weight of a person, of a child, 5, 5, 5 kg. 3. Second person weight, second observation you had taken for 3 individual. Now the weight is 0, 15, oh no, 1, 0, weight cannot be 0. It is 2 kg, 10 kg and 3 kg. Now one more person is taking the observation. He is having a data for 3%. He is taking the observation and observation is coming 4, 5, 6. Look, there are 3 sequences, but in all these 3 sequences, what is common? When you are taking the average is coming 5. 15 divided by 3, that is 5 for all the 3 series. But the data set is varying, because from which data set you are getting, I am getting it, but the person is unable to speak what. So when a person is interested in knowing that what is the variability in the data set, you have to know about, you have to be very important or it is very necessary to know about the dispersion. Now I am going to tell you a story that how this idea of dispersion keeps. Suppose you are, suppose one of my friend, suppose you are my friend and you are saying that I want to cross this Ganga river, okay, across this Howrah bridge. Uh, I want to cross this river, okay, and I want to go from this bank to other bank. So you just ask with me that, sir, what is the average depth of the water in this Ganges river? I am saying that, oh, no need to worry, man. It is on an average 6 feet water in this river. Okay. But the thing is that when you started swimming in the middle, you get drawn and you shouted for help. So now another friend who is your best friend came, or the person who are uh, who are working or who are helping at the shore, they came and help you out and asked with you that, man, what happened? Uh, why are you crossing the bank in the river if the bridge is available? So one of your, so you tell that my friend is there, he's saying that the water is only 6 feet, so that's why my height is tall, I thought that I will cross the river. So he told that whether your friend does not discuss about the variability or standard deviation, that is a measure of dispersion. It is a measure of dispersion. That is a standard deviation. So standard deviation uh, means what is the variability in the data set. So it is calculated by a measure of dispersion. So you tell, no, no, no. So he told, although the mean is 6, but it is plus minus 4. Plus minus 4. So 6 minus 2, 4 is 2, and 6 plus 4 is 10. So somewhere the water was 2 feet and somewhere the water is 10 feet. So when you don't have the knowledge about the measure of dispersion or variability in the data set, you will not be able to explain, or you will not be able to explain your data set, or you will not be in a providing a valid interpretation or valid conclusion of your data set. So dispersion is very important to understand or know, right? So there are 3 measures of dispersion. I will not take too much time. One is standard deviation, second one is quartile, measures of quartile, and the third one is range. So now whenever, write down somewhere, I am not talking in depth that how to calculate the standard deviation, how to calculate the range, how to calculate the interquartile range, but you write down somewhere, because you have to write down in your synopsis that when mean is given, standard deviation is always given. You have read somewhere in your paper, in journal, in thesis, that mean plus minus. What is this plus minus after that? This is called standard deviation. So what is this standard deviation? Standard deviation tells us that how far each and every individual value deviates from its mean value. So it tells about the deviation from the mean. So when I was talking about the depth of the water in the river, the depth of the river water was 10 foot plus minus 4, plus minus 4 of the mean. So somewhere the water was 2 feet and somewhere the water was 12 feet. So that is known as standard deviation. Interquartile range is given when you are talking about median. When you are having a non-normal data set, you have to give median along with interquartile range. Now comes to the maximum and minimum value, and one more is coefficient of variation. That is also a measure of dispersion, but range is also a measure of dispersion. Range is the difference between minimum and maximum value. Now comes to the inferential statistics. What is inferential statistics? When I am talking about inferential, so till here we have discussed about descriptive study. Means we have to describe our data in the form of mean plus minus standard deviation, or somewhere when mean is not allowed, you have to give, suppose when a data is having qualitative response like female male, you cannot give mean for that, you have to give number and percentage for that. So you have to present it in the form of number and percentage, that how many males are there, how many females are there. So you write down in your synopsis, you write down the qualitative or categorical responses will be presented with mean, will be presented by number, frequency and percentages, and quantitative responses, quantitative data will be presented either by mean plus minus standard deviation or median with interquartile range as per checking of normality of the data. So this is you have to write in your synopsis, in your statistical analysis plan, that how you are proceeding with your data, what will you do, what will you calculate after when you analyze the data, how you are going to present it. Now comes to the third one, that is inferential statistics. When I talk about inferential statistics, I have to talk about some errors and hypotheses. Okay, is it okay? Okay. Take 5 minutes. So in inferential statistics, when there is inferential statistics, people are coming to me and you will require a p-value. P-value is always computed in inferential statistics. When there is application of inferential statistics is there, people are coming and saying, sir, please find the p-value. Unnecessary computation of p-value means you are misusing the statistics. So don't misuse the importance of statistics. So when you are writing your objective, below that you have to write your hypothesis. If you are doing a cause effect analytical study, or you are doing a RCT or clinical trial, you have to write, or you in analytical, whether you are doing a case control study, you want to find out an association, or you want to find out, you want to measure the risk that smoking is causing a risk, how much is the risk, odds ratio you have to calculate. So you have to make some hypothesis there. So what is this hypothesis, right? So hypothesis, it is a statement about population parameter. Okay, so what is a population? It is a big population and you are taking small sample from the population, right? Is it digestible? The thing is that sample means you are taking a study, you are not evaluating all the person, you are only taking a sample. So in tomorrow class, I will discuss about sample, population and sample size, minimum sample required for a study. But today I will make you understand that whenever any hypothesis is there in your study, then only you will write this statement that a p-value less than 0.05 will be considered as statistical significant, and some statistical test will be applied to test this hypothesis. Now comes to what is a hypothesis. Hypothesis, it is the assertion or a statement about population, big population. Now a famous hypothesis I am going to make, it is a famous study, smoking causes lung cancer. This is my hypothesis in my mind, that a person who is a smoker will have a chance of developing lung cancer. This is my statement. So when you are framing this hypothesis, you have to frame two hypotheses. One is null hypothesis and the other one is alternate hypothesis. People are making only null hypothesis and leaving it. It is not a way. You have to make both. Null H0 is denoted for null hypothesis and H alternate, it is an alternate of null hypothesis. So null hypothesis, it is a statement of no difference. Okay, So when I am testing something, I will make a hypothesis of no difference. So what will be my null hypothesis in this case? In this case, I will make a statement like this, that there is no association between smoking and lung cancer. This is my null hypothesis. So I am not favoring anyone. So this is the statement of no difference. Okay, that's why it is called a null. I am not favoring anyone, and it is framed in such a manner that it will not harm the study population. I'm not making any declaration that this is a reason behind a smoking is a cause of lung cancer. But the thing is that you have to be very null. You have to make a statement in such a form which is a type of negative statement, and after that you will be interested in rejecting this null. And when you reject this null hypothesis, you will get automatically a p-value less than 0.05. And when your p-value less than 0.05 comes, you say that, I have got the success, right? This means my null hypothesis is rejected, and finally I have shown that there is an association between smoking and lung cancer. So this is the latest part when you do the analysis. Second one, I am framing this again a hypothesis, null hypothesis. Mean systolic blood pressure in normal subject of patient aged 30 years of age in a population is equal to 120 ml. I have assumed that what is the mean systolic as BP level will be 120 ml. Maybe wrong, maybe right. Now comes to the alternate hypothesis. Alternate is a complement, or it is an opposite of null hypothesis. So when you are making, be cautious. When you are making a hypothesis, you have to frame both null and alternate. So in null, you have to frame null means no difference, and alternate, you have to frame that there is a difference. So it is a opposite of that. So null alternate hypothesis may be one-sided or two-sided. I am not going to touching too much because you people think that I'm making the lecture boring. But the thing is that you must know that what is a null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis means a statement of no difference. Alternate hypothesis means a statement of difference where you have to write it. So you just a little very small thing is that difference between one-sided and two-sided. When I'm saying that there is no association between smoking and lung cancer, and alternate I am making there is an association between smoking and lung cancer, I am not saying that it is making a positive association or it is making a negative association. So this is called two-sided, right? But when I talk about one-sided, I will say in null I have made that mean cholesterol level in hypotensive patient will be greater than 120 ml, or mean SBP level will be greater or smaller than 120 ml. So this is a one-sided. Now this is one-sided and two-sided. One-sided means you are having one-tailed this rejection region. This is a region of rejection. This is a normal shape. I have assumed that your data is following a normal distribution, okay? And after that, yeah, bell-shaped curve is there, okay? And this is this black shaded area is the area of rejection. When your p-value comes under this rejection area, your null hypothesis will be rejected, and you say that there is a real difference. This difference, what you have observed, is not due to sampling. Okay, so this is not a part at which is to be studied at this point, because this is, you are in a phase of synopsis writing, but you must know what are the types of error which happens in day-to-day life. Okay, so you must know, because whenever you are understanding these basic things, alpha error, beta error, you have heard somewhere, you will be easy in analyzing your data, and you will be easy in your sample size calculation also. So in the top, at the top it is written truth about the population. So what is true? Means null hypothesis is true, H naught is true, H alternative is false. Decision based on sample. In the row it is written decision based on sample. When you are doing a study, you are also taking a sample. Suppose I am talking about COVID-19. Suppose truth is there that I am not positive. This means null hypothesis H naught is true. This means that I am having non-COVID. I am not COVID. I am not positive. And H alternative is true. H alternative is true. This means H naught is false. This means I am positive, I am negative, or I am positive. Right? So this is a statement about truth. I am positive or I am negative. This is the truth. And now you are taking my blood sample. Okay. So you have taken my blood sample. I am not having any COVID. I am free from this COVID-19. Okay. I am not positive. So this is the truth. So when you are taking my blood sample or swab, and you are finding, you are coming to a decision that you are negative. I am negative and my result is also coming negative after sample. This means I have done any error? No, because the decision is correct. Right? But suppose if a person or I am a positive, right? And you are saying, suppose I am positive and by your sample I am positive, and by your test also it is coming positive. This means correct decision. If I am negative, suppose I am negative, H naught is I am negative, H naught false is I am positive, right? So on your sample, if I am negative and your test is also giving this result that I am negative, is there any mistake? No mistake. So the decision is correct. So both A, B, C, D, if I make the column, B and C are correct. Now where is the error? Error is when I am positive, okay, I am positive and you are rejecting my status that I am negative. It is known as alpha error. This means I am positive and you are rejecting myself that I am negative. That means your test result is coming negative. This means you are rejecting the truth, right? And second problem occurs where if I am negative and your decision is coming that I am positive. This means you are accepting the false. So these are two errors which happens in day-to-day life. So when you are rejecting the truth, it is known as type first error. So rejecting the null hypothesis, which is true, it is known as alpha error, and it is a measure of strength of evidence, and it is also called p-value or level of significance in testing of hypothesis when we take it, because when alpha is decided prior to the study, it is known as level of significance. Okay, generally set at 5% advance. I am generally setting, people or statistician basically settle that 5% times there will be error. So when we set this 5% alpha error, it is known as level of significance. 1 minus alpha is known as confidence coefficient. Now comes to type 2 error. Type 2 error is beta, means probability of accepting or chance of accepting the false. Okay, accepting the false is known as beta error. 1 minus beta is known as power of the test, right? So which one is more serious? Both are error. So people, what we statistician do, we just fix type first error at 5% or 1%. When you increase your precision 1%, you will get more accurate result. Okay, but generally we take as alpha as 5%, and we try to maximize the power of your study. Okay, that is known as we will manage by maximizing the power. What is the p-value? P-value is a probability which tells us whether we have to reject our null hypothesis or we have to accept. So it is, so you have to make a statement in your synopsis. When you are doing analytical study, you write down that p-value less than 0.05, it is known as a significance level at 5% level of significance. So this is about two-tailed test, and this is basically related to rejection and acceptance region. When you calculate, when you do the analysis, this is the region of acceptance and this is the region of rejection, and you have to find out the estimate of mean, and this is useless for you. So the thing is that you are now in a phase of synopsis writing. So what is the process of hypothesis testing? You have to make a practical question, you have to select a hypothesis, after that you have to test it by some statistical test, and after that you have come to a decision, okay, by accepting or rejecting a null hypothesis. So there are two statistical tests which you people know, based on normal distribution and the other based on non-normal distribution. So when a statistical test, it is following a normal distribution curve, when your data is following a normal distribution curve, then you have to apply or choose normal or parametric test. But when your data is non-normal, then in that case you have to choose non-parametric test. And I am not going in the depth that what you have to do, but the thing is that you have to choose this statistical test. There are various statistical tests, but I am talking about t-test, ANOVA, z-test, and in non-parametric tests which are based on non-parametric distribution, these are known as non-parametric tests. So now coming to this slide. This slide is very important because you have to write down that what test you have to use. So again, here comes depending on your hypothesis. When you are comparing a mean, write down somewhere. When you are comparing the mean of your data set, okay, mean hemoglobin level or mean serum cholesterol level or something like that between two independent groups, okay, suppose I am giving you an example, okay. There are two groups of females, pregnant females. One group I am giving iron folic acid, other group I am giving nothing, okay. So I am measuring the hemoglobin level, which is a type of which type of data? This is continuous and quantitative data. So you have to calculate the mean hemoglobin level, okay, after giving the birth of a baby or after the delivery. The hemoglobin level is measured for these two groups. One group is given IFA, other group is not given anything, or simple placebo. So mean hemoglobin level is reported, okay. So when mean hemoglobin level is reported, suppose for a group which is given IFA, the mean HB level is coming 12.6 or 13, something like that. And other who is not given, which group is not given anything, that is placebo, the mean is coming 11 or something like 10.6. Now you will be interested in finding out that whether there is any difference in the mean. So what is the null hypothesis here? Null hypothesis is there is no difference in the mean HB level of two groups, whether the pregnant lady is consuming IFA or not consuming IFA, okay. Alternate will be there is a difference in the mean hemoglobin. So when you are comparing a mean, then you have to choose this t-test, two sample t-test, because you are taking two groups sample. So this is when your data is following normal distribution, you will compare it by using a statistical test that is known as t-test. But when data is non-normal, then you go for Mann-Whitney U-test. Okay, right? But there may be a situation when you are having more than two groups. One group you are giving iron folic acid, other group you are giving something related to iron laddu or something like that. Okay, and third one you are giving nothing. So now there are three groups. So test will also change. So so depending on your hypothesis and depending on your data, you have to choose a statistical test. That is a very subjective thing that is not common for all of you. That somebody has done written t-test, all of you are writing t-test will be used, t-test will be used. It is not like that. You have to think that which test is to be used, how many groups are there. So according to the number of groups, according to your types of data, your test depends. Now one more example I have given you, that whether smoking is associated with lung cancer or not. Here your data is not continuous. Okay, you are having smoker and non-smoker. This is your response from the patient. Okay, and you are having lung cancer cases and non-lung cancer. You retrospectively ask with them that were you exposed with smoking? Then a person says yes or no. Is this a continuous data? No, this is not a quantitative data itself. This is a qualitative response. So write down somewhere, when there is a qualitative response and your hypothesis is to be framed, then in that case use this word association term. People are misusing the word correlation and association. So when you are having a quantitative response, then correlation word will be used. But when you are having a response of qualitative or categorical response, then in that case you will use the association word. Now hypothesis will be there is no association between smoking and lung cancer. Alternate will be there exists an association between smoking and lung cancer. Okay, so now the test will be chosen is here is chi-square test. We generally choose. I understand that this is very typical now, but if you have any confusion that which test is to be used, you just consult me, because you people are new. So depending on your parametric or non-parametric or normality of your data, you have to choose. One more test is there, pair t-test. If a person is giving in clinical trial, people are giving one group drug, this drug, and after that you are measuring the hemoglobin level pre and post. Okay, so hemoglobin is a type of continuous data. So when your data is continuous, then paired observation, and your observation is paired, or suppose in this case of your pregnant lady only, I have taken, if I am taking 60 pregnant lady, there is only one group now. Now the group is only one. Okay, of this 60 pregnant lady, I am computing the HB level at the baseline or before giving this iron folic acid, and after the delivery I am measuring the hemoglobin level. Now the mean HB level is computed because hemoglobin is a type of continuous data. So that's why in the beginning only I told you that you have to be very clear cut that what type of response or outcome you are having, what type of data you are going to collect. That is a very important or base for you to decide that where you have to move. You have to use which statistical test. I know this is typical, but you have to bear with me. And if there is any problem, then you can discuss with it. Non-parametric tests, these are having which are based on non-normality, and it is having a less precision or less power. So this is all about. Now comes to the question. This is a question I have framed for you people. This is the last slide. I have talked much more about this. I know that this is a very typical thing and it cannot be learned in a single class. But thank you so much that you for you people that very patient for having the patience and listening this lecture in a 1 hour. I have tried to touch all the most of the things what you people have to write in the statistical analysis. So get set, go. There are 5 questions. These questions are very easy. Now you people can answer me. What is the severity of a disease is? Severity of a disease is measured on which type of variable it is? Very good. Devanjan, I am very impressed that people are writing it is a type of ordinal variable because you are having some order of your disease. Weight is measured in kilogram. So weight is a type of continuous. Oh, no. Weight is a continuous type and it is a quantitative response. It is not a categorical. You can make it category. You can make it category, but that's the second stage. You can make it. You people answer it that I will make the category weight less than 30, 30 to 60. But that is the second step. That is not the first step. You have collected the data, so it is a continuous. Oh, that's fine. Now, what is the probability of rejecting the true null hypothesis? Probability, alpha error, very nice. And what is the committing type 2 error? That is beta error. Probability of committing type 2 error is very nice, beta. And now this is the last question which you people have to give. If you are giving this answer, this means I am satisfied that you people have learned something. I know that it is a big C and you cannot learn everything with this within this 1 hour, but I am happy that you people are understanding something and you people are having the patience and listening the thing. And actually I want a statistics class which is interactive so that you people interact with me, but this is not possible and this is the limitation. And so you have to bear with me. Can you write down the last answer? Oh, right, very nice. This is a median survival you have to compute because the longevity of a person varies from person to person. So that's all, and thank you. And if there is any query, you just mail to me. This is my mail ID. Okay, thank you so much for having the patience and listening for continuous 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. Thank you so much. And tomorrow I will discussing with you regarding sampling and sample size. So please be ready for it. I will not try much more mathematics because I understand that you people are now exhausted with 3 hours, and after that when I talk much more mathematics with you, you people not bear it. I understand the situation, so I tried my best so that you can. Oh, what is confidence interval? Somebody is writing. Oh, can I just check my chat after that? Is confidence interval and range same or not? Now, confidence interval, it is a term when we are talking about testing of, when we are taking sampling, okay? So when we are talking about sampling, then only we talk about confidence interval. Because suppose you have taken a 60 patient weight, okay, sample. You have taken a sample of 60 patient hemoglobin level and hemoglobin level of pregnant lady, and now there are 2 groups, right? One group is consuming IFA and other group is not consuming IFA, okay? So there are 2 groups. Now confidence interval is 2 words are there. One is confidence and the other one is interval. How much confident you are? People will ask you that how much confident. So people write down 95% confidence I am. So people will say that I am confident that what I have estimated the hemoglobin level for this pregnant lady who is consuming IFA will be hemoglobin level will lies between 10.6 to 12.8. This is an interval. Okay, the estimate can be given in two things. One is in the form of interval and other one is in the form of point estimate. So there are two estimates. One is point estimate and the other one is interval estimate. So this is an interval. When we are talking about interval, you have to give a range, minimum value and maximum value. Okay, and confidence will tell you that how much confidence you are that if the same experiment is repeated by suppose 100% patient, 100 people are doing this, continuously doing the same thing, 95 time you will get your estimate between these confidence limit, and that is known as confidence interval. So when you are talking about sampling, confidence interval term is range. But when you are not talking about sampling also, you can give the range. Range talks about maximum and minimum value in your data set. Suppose in your survival duration only, what is the minimum survival duration of a patient? Suppose 3 months or 4 months, and maximum is 4 years. So you just convert it 4 years into months, that is 48 months. So 48 minus 3, that is 45 is the range of that survival duration. Is it okay? Any question?
Thank you, Dr. Tiwari, for an excellent presentation and a very, very informative. I think it is very informative for all the PGs. So I think we will close today, okay, because it's quite late already. And
Okay.
they can ask you questions coming to the department
Oh,
and
oh, they can mail me also. They can mail me also.
okay, so everybody is thanking you actually for the very excellent
No,
effort.
no, 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 no. I had tried to make this in 1 hour, but I understand the difficulties people are facing, because the thing is that this statistics class is to be interactive. When I also don't like this one-way interactive process. When there will be two-way, it will be better for the participants also, and for me also to explain them easily. I had tried to skip most of the things, but that is my limitation, my dear friend. So thank you so much for listening this and having the patience that after having 3 hours of class, you are listening my lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I'm disconnecting. Okay.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
and I shall place the attendance link. Hello.